this drawing started as a series of little thumbnails I did in my sketchbook. I was exploring some ideas for my personal IP, Black Shore. I had no plans to paint this or do a painting based on these sketches. I didn't even start it in Procreate with a plan to do a video. It just started as very loose pen sketches from my imagination, and I find a lot of my favorite work of mine started that way. I like to take pictures with my phone of my sketches. I usually take pictures with my phone just because I'm lazy, but sometimes I'll properly scan them. But usually I just take a picture of these just in case I want to work on them further in Procreate or Photoshop. And I was actually on a plane on the way to Lightbox when I decided to just start working on these sketches in Procreate. So I had a general idea of this location when I first did the sketches. It was based on an idea from something that I had written. So I just wanted to try a few things to see if any ideas or different iterations really jumped out at me. So that was the first thing I was thinking when I started iterating on this in Procreate. This location is really high up in the mountains, so I really wanted the feeling of remoteness, and I want this kind of giant doorway to feel ancient with a nice mix of kind of roughly hewn or more organic shapes, but I want it to still feel precise in how tall and narrow the entrance is. A lot of work I do is based on feeling, so that's always at the front of my mind when I'm doing this kind of stuff. And with this one in particular, I want to feel scared at the thought of what is inside of this doorway. So you see me experiment here with different motifs around the top of the doorway to find the right shape language to communicate the right feeling. So some felt too delicate and ornate and just didn't feel they didn't have the shape language that felt foreboding or ominous to me. And also they didn't feel realistic to be carved in this kind of stone. It felt almost too delicate. But then some were too simplistic, and it lost the feeling that, this is man-made, and it lost the importance. It felt kind of like it could almost have just occurred naturally. So the design I ended up with, I felt it had the right mix of this creepy kind of shape language as well as a nice blend of ordered and organic shapes. It's kind of this occultish design combined with the central composition, which we all know I really like. It just gives me that emotion that I want. To me, this shot feels like we've discovered something that we weren't looking for, and the architectural details give that feeling that there's something important concealed here. I tried a bunch of versions where the character is standing in front, approaching the door, but it didn't really fit the design I had in my head. I wanted this to feel like a door on the side of a mountain, on like a perfectly vertical, sheer kind of face of rock. And I almost liked the thought that just looking at it, you can't really imagine how you could even reach the door. By the end, much of the painting is hidden in shadow or otherwise just very dark. So this is just a personal preference of mine for a more cinematic look. I've become less afraid to hide details in shadow or obscure things if it improves my composition. I like subtlety, and I try and bring that into my artwork as much as I can, and sometimes I'm more successful than other times. And I like to simplify things as much as I can. The design for this has been done, and it's in there somewhere, and if this were concept art for a game, I'd share those more cleared shots of the design along with this shot. But what you're seeing here is more of like intention for a mood and a story, with the main intention of giving a feeling and a sense of immersion. Often when we sit down with big plans for a drawing or a painting, we fail to achieve the result that we were hoping for. And sometimes the process to get there is a real struggle. So to end up with something that you don't like and you don't know how to fix can be really discouraging. But that in and of itself isn't actually that bad. It's how you move on from that which can really set you back. Every time I fail to create something that I like, I lose a tiny bit of confidence. And it's that horrible feeling where maybe the week prior everything was working great and going smoothly, and maybe even had a breakthrough, but then suddenly this one image makes you feel confused again. So you'll try and fix things, but you just can't find the right recipe. It's like you know where you want to go, but you don't know how to get there. Sometimes, especially if this happens with a few images in a row, you can just dread the idea of trying to draw something again because your confidence has been so diminished so quickly by that series of failures. Suddenly you're scared to draw because you're scared of the results. In my mind, that's the exact opposite of how it should feel making art. Instead of being scared about the results, we should be excited about the process. My favorite thing to do in these low points is to just take a break and absorb other art for a while, like photography, or read books, or take a morning to watch a film that inspires me, look at other illustrators and painters that I admire, and just forget about myself for a while. And I try my best just to let that inspiration in without attaching it or comparing it to what I'm doing. It always feels like it at least brings back some of the motivation. Stepping away and just taking in inspiration, it sometimes can make you feel like you were looking at your art through a keyhole, and then once you just step away and just focus on getting inspired, it's like someone opened a door and you realize there's all these other perspectives that you can see things from. And that's the moment when I will go back to my sketchbook and I'll start to make something very simple and something in my comfort zone, which is straight from my imagination. And that's exactly what I did for the beginning of this image in my sketchbook. I go slowly and try to remind myself of the value of my imagination. Drawing in my sketchbook is my favorite way to do this. I draw straight with a pen, and I just enjoy the process of seeing a line or mark in my mind, then confidently putting it on the page. And sometimes it doesn't go down the way I imagine it in my mind, and there's imperfections and errors all over the place in my sketchbook, but you're forced to accept those errors and move forward anyway. You can't undo them. I can only take what I learned from those errors to the next drawing that I do, which is why I like to do a lot of little thumbnail kind of explorations, just to test stuff and try stuff. And then I can use what I learned there from those little small commitment drawings to create something bigger and more refined with more confidence. These peaks and valleys are just part of pursuing art. And I know I've talked about this a lot, but it's one of the most important things that I've come to realize about being an artist. There's no avoiding the valleys. As you grow, your standards become higher for yourself. So even when you're getting much better, reaching that next level just means a whole new set of challenges for you. Even the best artists on earth, artists who I consider damn near perfect, their work is mind-blowing to me. They're still trying to improve, they're struggling, and they're climbing out of their own valleys on the way to their next peak. You learn a lot about yourself in those low moments, and you figure out your own ways to pull yourself out of them. For me, it's like I mentioned earlier, absorbing other art and finding inspiration in things around me, even just going out in nature and getting away from consuming things and not putting pressure on myself to draw and paint and observe everything. Sometimes it just, for me, is to step away and sit quietly. So there's all these little things I learn about myself from going through those low moments that I can rely on to get myself out of them. So I just want to reassure you guys that if you just stick with it and try and stay positive, I know it's hard sometimes, but try and stay positive and just trust yourself and don't be afraid to rest. You'll find your own way. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more development stuff on Black Shore, please go over to check out my Patreon. You'll get access to our Discord community, monthly streams, feedback sessions, community challenges, and a bunch of extra videos like this. But even if you just watch here on YouTube, I appreciate you guys so much. I have the best community ever, and I'm really grateful. Genuinely wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, so thank you so much. Please don't be too hard on yourselves. Go to bed, rest, get up, and try again. I'll see you in the next video.